televiziunea română, întâlnirile JTI și Fundația Art Production vă recomandă Garantat 100%.
Salutare! Salutare la toată lumea, bine v-am regăsit la Garantat 100%. Invitatul nostru din seara asta s-a născut în octombrie 1957 la Miami, Florida, în Statele Unite. E un foarte cunoscut scriitor, cercetător și conferențiar în probleme de educație generală, studiul comportamentului uman și educație parentală în vederea creșterii copiilor într-o nouă paradigmă care exclude pedeapsa, condiționarea sau motivarea bazată pe criteriile pieței. O să vedem mai la vale ce înseamnă criteriile pieței. Invitatul nostru este autorul unor cărți de resunet mondial, un autor controversat care dinamitează cam tot ce știm în materie de educație. Cred că orice părinte care se uită în seara asta la noi are ceva de câștigat, dar cred că cel mai câștigat ești citind cărțile acestui autor. Sosit în România, la invitația partenerilor noștri de la Totul despre mame, invitatul nostru susține o conferință despre iubirea necondiționată în creșterea copiilor și își lansează la noi o carte fascinantă cu titlul Parenting necondiționat. În speranța că vă stârnesc interesul, vă ofer un citat din acest volum. Parentingul condiționat reflectă tendința de a vedea aproape orice interacțiune umană, chiar și între membrii unei familii, drept o tranzacție economică. Legile pieței, cerere și ofertă, după faptă și răsplată, au fost ridicate la rangul de principii universale și absolute, ca și cum totul din viața noastră, inclusiv ce facem cu copiii noștri, este similar cu achiziționarea unei mașini sau închirierea unui apartament. Am încheiat citatul. Doamnelor și domnilor, suntem onorați să-i spunem bun venit la Garantat 100% domnului Alfie Kohn. Good evening and thank you for accepting our invitation.
My pleasure.
In order to make things very clear from the very beginning, which is the difference between conditional and unconditional parenting?
It begins from the premise that it's not enough to love one's child. Rather, what matters is how that love expresses itself. There's a difference between loving a child for who he is or who she is on the one hand, and for what he or she does on the other. When we love children for what they do, we say there are conditions, or as we say in English, there are strings attached,
right,
which means you have to earn the care or attention, the approval or acknowledgement that you get from a parent. And this turns out to be very destructive psychologically, even though it is precisely the kind of parenting recommended by many parenting advisors in order to control children.
Right.
But what children need is to be loved for no damn good reason. We need to love them for who they are, even when they screw up or fall short, maybe especially then.
Well, conditional parenting, in your view, is very similar to the free market mechanism. What will a child become after such a type of education?
Well, we don't have to speculate. We have a fair amount of research by now to indicate what happens. When children feel they have to earn their parents' love as if it is an economic transaction, they learn to accept themselves only conditionally. I am only a good person when I do well in school or in sports, when I hide my anger, when I'm nice to other people, when I'm attractive or funny or otherwise deemed more worthy. And psychologists tell us that unconditional self-esteem is practically the same as, or at least an important component of, psychological health. To be able to know that even when we make mistakes, we still have a core of faith in oneself. I'm still a competent and capable and lovable person. But when our parents put conditions on our worth, when we have to jump through hoops, as we say with animals, in order to get a prize, and here the prize is love, we come never to accept ourselves as ultimately good, because we're only one mistake away from thinking of ourselves as incompetent and unlovable. So the worst thing we can do to children is to use our love as a kind of trophy that we award to them when they please us or impress us. Instead, we need to give them the message, no matter what you do, even things I don't approve of, I will never, ever stop loving you.
Someone could ask, isn't this pure anarchy?
I don't see how the absence of a government maps onto the level of psychological dynamics and interpersonal relationships. If you mean, are we not giving up control of children, authoritarian control, the answer is happily yes. If you mean, does this mean that children will run wild without any sense of moral purpose or direction, the answer is absolutely not. In fact, children tend to act out in a bad way, to misbehave, to do what is disturbing, mostly in households where they have been over-controlled with punishments and rewards. When children are loved unconditionally, that doesn't mean we don't offer guidance. It doesn't mean we don't offer direction and help. It means we spend time working with children rather than doing things to them to make them obey.
Here's a quotation from yourself. You said, imposing a penalty is not at all likely to be a constructive thing, end of quotation. But I know lots of people that could say penalty is the very root of a normal strategy of raising a kid.
If by normal you mean typical, I'm afraid you're correct. If you mean healthy or desirable, again, absolutely no. A penalty says, a punishment says, when you do something bad has to be done to you. The message that a child hears from a punitive parent is, do this or here's what I will do to you. I will make you suffer in some way, and that is supposed to make you a better person. When you think about it that way, when you strip bare our assumptions and our backgrounds and just look at it logically, there's no reason why making someone suffer would improve that person morally or psychologically or any other way. What it teaches children is people who have more power than I can use that power to hurt me, to make them do whatever, make me do whatever they want. That has never in the history of humankind made people more ethical and more caring. All it does is make them more self-centered, because now they think, what do I have to do in order to avoid the penalty from this person with more power?
Right.
And so if we say we don't hit people, some people, it's a tragic irony, may even hit the child. We don't hit people. I mean, this would be funny if it weren't so tragic. When we're modeling, we're setting the example of using violence. But even when we use other kinds of penalties, where we deprive children of things they enjoy, foods, privileges, chance to, because they disobeyed us, because they did something late, they were disrespectful, they hurt someone else. This doesn't lead children to ask, what kind of person do I want to be? It leads them to ask, how do I avoid getting caught? How do I do exactly what I want to do without getting the consequence? Because the consequence is to me. So the use of penalty, however common it might be, fixes children's attention firmly on their own self-interest and makes them less concerned about the impact of their actions on other people.
I'll give you two examples that you use. You will go now to your room. This is a penalty. Is it as efficient, as effective as some could believe?
Well, people who are more traditional would say it's not punitive enough because the child might enjoy being in her room, which makes me crazy to hear a criticism like this. No, we have to hurt the child more effectively. That's not enough suffering.
Right.
You know, Let's assume that the child doesn't want to be deprived of company, doesn't want to be alone, finds that fearful or unpleasant, so that it is an effective penalty. What does the child think sitting there alone in the room? Does the child think, now I see that hurting people is wrong? I mean, it's laughable. Why would we ever do this? What does the child think about? Maybe, this is so unfair. I'm always blamed for it, and my mom never sees that my sister was goading me into doing this. I'm always the one that's blamed. Or the child thinks, I'm just not a very good person. Apparently I'm not worth spending time with. That's why they keep sending me here to be by myself. Or maybe the child just thinks, I am going to get my sister when my parents aren't looking. No possible result of this is constructive and useful.